Apple's new AirPods, tiny tweaks or must-have upgrade? And did Meta just change the game at MetaConnect? Let's jump right in.
Double Tap Productions presents Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo, the latest in tech and accessibility. Follow us now and get involved at Access Tech Live.
Marc Aflalo and Stephen Scott with you. Stephen, what a debacle at MetaConnect. Did you see that live demo catastrophically fail?
Oh, I was watching it with popcorn. It was wonderful. I love a live demo, especially when it goes wrong, and it did twice. I think went for a third attempt at something else, and it almost failed spectacularly, but that one actually worked. You know what? I also kind of feel, I was reading social media about this, and a lot of people are saying, you know what? At least they try. At least they actually bother to do live demos. Doesn't always work out. At least they try.
They try and they handle it with grace. At least Mark Zuckerberg did. Listen, he wasn't pissed off. You kind of got to joke about it. I think going into any live demo, as we've learned, sometimes you just got to take the L and move on, which is what they did. Obviously, the big takeaway from MetaConnect is Meta's new Ray-Ban display glasses. This is the first set of, I'll call them consumer glasses with an actual high quality display in them to do things like see someone on the other end of a call, get notifications, navigate, and of course this neural wristband to allow you to control things. Okay, fancy, cool, interesting. It's going to be first generation. People are going to buy it for the okay, what does this do factor. What are your thoughts though? Because I have a lot of concerns.
Well, that'll be interesting to hear because I think it sounds great. Useless to me as a blind person, doesn't really do anything for me. Ray-Ban updated their first generation Ray-Ban glasses with better audio, with better battery life, better camera. That's what I'm interested in. The glasses with a display, if I'm honest, not really. Speaking as a blind guy, not so much. However, many people with disabilities, especially physical or motor disabilities, might find this very interesting with that neural wristband, which will allow someone who perhaps has muscular dystrophy to be able to control their device with their hands. That sounds very interesting. And, you know, the way they're doing this with this neural wristband, very simple gestures, even being able to write out a text message literally by writing using your finger on a desk. Kind of amazing to me how that's all going to work.
Now, I know they talk about how your brain is kind of controlling this. Really, it's about the motor movement in your actual wrist, right? It's about gestures. Very much similar to how the Apple Watch allows you to do things like double tap and wrist flicks, right? It works the same way. Whether or not your brain is actually controlling something, I think we need some proof in the pudding. But I agree with you. For somebody with any kind of mobility issues and mobility disabilities, this is going to be something very interesting, something we've heard of in just the regular Meta Ray-Bans helping people because your hands are free, you know, especially if you can't use your hands, you're able to do things with voice control that's not limited to like a smart speaker in your home. So I'm very curious to see that second generation. And like you, Stephen, I'm also really excited for those. You know, I'm excited for just the updated Meta Ray-Bans. The Oakley ones, you know, I saw them in store. For me, I've got a giant head. Unfortunately, they just don't work for me. But the upgraded everything is something that I really do enjoy. Now, you wear your Meta Ray-Bans almost, all the time. Do you wear them a lot in the home or mostly outside?
Oh, all the time. I mean, one of the benefits of the new Ray-Bans will, of course, be this extended battery life. But with the Meta Oakleys, it's very interesting. This new Vanguard version they're bringing out, the wraparound style, has a couple of particular interesting benefits for low vision and blind people. One being that with wraparound glasses, you can cut out all of that unnecessary light that a lot of people struggle with, and I know I do as well. In fact, I actually bought for my Meta Ray-Bans side shields, which is just a little accessory you can actually clip on to the side of those Ray-Bans just to block out more light. Unfortunately, as I am prone to do, I dropped my glasses and smashed the side shields to bits. Glasses were fine though, that's the good news. But now with the Ray-Bans, or I should say the Oakley Vanguards as they're called, that will be something I wouldn't need to do. Now, they are pretty big from my understanding, so wearing them around the home all day, that might be a bit tricky. How hot will it be wearing those all the time? I've worn those kind of wraparound glasses a lot, and they do heat up your face, so that can be a bit irritating. But the audio is going to be incredible. 6 decibels louder than the first generation Oakley Houston, I think they call them, glasses. So 6 decibels louder there. Also, that centered camera is going to make a big difference for a lot of blind people who are going to be, frankly, struggling to, get a document, for example, in front of their glasses to be able to have it read aloud using that camera that's on the right side of the glasses, or maybe it's the left. I actually have no idea where the glasses or the camera is in the Ray-Ban glasses. But the point is it'll be in the center of the glasses on those wraparounds, which sounds really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having I put them up on the screen right now. The Vanguards, starting Canadian price $679, obviously a little bit cheaper in the U.S. They're definitely that signature Oakley style that Oakley, embraced by sports enthusiasts. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going after that market of people. And they used, the example they gave was Red Bull, right? They showed an example on stage, a demo of somebody doing some more extreme sports, things where you want that first person point of view to be a little bit more specific. And of course, as you said, the wraparound is definitely helpful. It's interesting. Set again with the camera in the middle. It's a different vantage point, a different perspective. I'm curious to see how comfortable these are. These are technically, normally a wider set of glasses. I'm scrolling through the color options here and the styles. There are a whole bunch of different options for it, which look pretty cool. I'm curious because the regular Meta Ray-Bans I find is still a little bulky. I don't know about you, but again, with my oversized head, I do get fatigue with the pressure that's going on the sides, and you can't really adjust them. Whereas these Vanguards tend to be a wider fit, which is interesting as well.
Yeah, that's right. And you can, or at least you could, buy larger versions of the Meta Ray-Bans at the beginning.
I have the largest, Stephen.
Oh, you've got the largest ones. Wow, okay, right. Nothing I can do for you. And they fitted me fine, and I really do enjoy wearing them. The first pair of sunglasses I really enjoyed. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. I think that, again, there's so many benefits to the different styles of frames for the Oakley Vanguards because, many different people prefer to block out light in many different ways using different color filters, and that's something you'll be able to do with this. So I can really see a lot of benefits here. And of course, it's going to have a huge benefit for people who are skiing or jet skiing or whatever the sport of choice is. Sitting watching Netflix, is that a sport? Because if it is, I'm a winner.
So this is my concern about the display, the ones with the screen in them, is that, coming from someone who's sighted, when I'm looking at, for example, sports, I'm watching my daughter on the ice, there's a net in the way, there's things that are a bit closer to your field of view than further away. And I find it sometimes difficult because your eyes are trying to focus on various things. So imagine your eye trying to focus on something that's, I know it's presented almost like a heads-up display, but you still have to use your brain to shift the focus to see what that is. And I'm wondering how this constant motor shift in your brain and in your eyes, what the long-term effect might be on someone's vision. Because, as someone who had laser surgery and it corrected my vision with great precision for a very long period of time, as you age, that thing does degrade. Your vision does degrade. Yep. So especially when it comes to things like your distance vision and your short vision, I'm wondering how this is going to have an effect. And I'm curious to get whether it's an ophthalmologist or someone who has a little bit more expertise than you and I have to get their perspective as well. And we're going to seek that out.
Yeah, look, these are the concerns. We know the impacts that smartphones have, iPads have on people's vision. That is why there's so many calls for different types of screens. They've even tried e-ink screens before on certain devices to, really cut down that glare. But interestingly, all these devices end up coming back to full color, bright displays. And that is exactly what you've got inside the Ray-Ban displays. So, 5,000 nits of brightness, that sounds like a lot of nits to me. I don't know how many nits are good, but that's a lot. And that's good, right? So how is that going to impact? We shall see. I guess it has to be bright, though, to almost stand out in the crowd of vision that you've got in front of you. But will it have an impact long term? Well, we'll see. I think you will get used to it, though, right? It's something you'll get used to. Initially, you'll have that challenge. I guess we're doing it already, though, with our smartphones, right? You're looking at something, you're looking down at your smartphone, you're looking up, you're looking down. It's always a changing environment. So maybe over time you'll get used to it.
Yeah, so, the Ray-Ban displays are going to be available in Canada in early 2026, but in a couple months in the U.S. Retail price $799. This is where, just a year ago when they were talking about similar glasses, I guess this is really what he was demonstrating a year ago that is now commercially available. $799, that's a pretty insane price. And if you think about what you get, on the Canadian side, it's about $1,100. Again, still a bit crazy for full, first technology. But I remember Google Glass when it first came out was about $3,000 if you wanted to even try it out, and we saw where that ended up.
Yeah, down the toilet, quite frankly. And
I've got a pair you want.
Yeah, I have 2 pairs in my house that are now redundant, which is kind of funny. But what's also interesting is we do have Project Orion, which is a little bit different to this, and there's a bit more detail coming out now that actually this is a different project that's coming down the track, which will be essentially that full operating system, fully operational on that glass. It seems that we're not there yet with even this first generation. We're building towards what will be Project Orion. And I've heard some developers already saying, you know what, it sounds great. We just still haven't got that SDK ability, that ability to build our own apps onto this yet. All the apps that are going to be on the Ray-Ban display will be Meta's own, and they're not opening that up yet. But of course, MetaConnect is continuing as we're talking, so who knows what's to come.
Earlier this week, iOS 26 launched. Really, every new operating system from Apple launched, whether it's iOS 26, macOS 26, watchOS 26, tvOS 26. First impressions from you? I know you haven't, unlike me, been on the beta for 3 months, so I'm kind of used to it. What are your first impressions?
So iOS 26 has a few bugs and issues along the way. Also, as a blind guy, I like to know where things are. I always tell people, never move the sofa because I'll never find it again, or I'll walk over it or bump into it. And that's kind of what they've done over at Apple, right? They've moved all the things around. My Safari search bar that was once at the top is now at the bottom. Wasn't aware that was going to happen. That's annoying. So there are lots of little things along the way, a lot of weird bugs, like now I can't send reaction thumbs ups to people on WhatsApp because that's not accessible anymore. Or at least if it is, it's not working properly. So that could be an app issue. But, again, it's that link between, people trying these things out without something like VoiceOver, the screen reader turned on, and then turning on VoiceOver and trying it and realizing the challenges. I would love to update my Mac Studio that I've got here, but unfortunately, I'm one of those unfortunate people, poor people in my life, who have the M3 Ultra chip, and that you cannot update this at the moment. There is no fix to this at the moment, but I cannot update this.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, there's a bug going around, which Apple are well aware of, and I'm sure will be fixed probably by the end of this call. But, so far I'm not able to update. I just get an error and it just won't install the update. So I will get this updated at some point, but I did play around with it on my MacBook Pro, and I will say I really, really like what they've done with it. I think there's some cool stuff in there, in particular around Mac shortcuts, although the macOS Shortcuts app is not as accessible as it was before. So there's some serious accessibility issues in there, lots of bugs and mislabeled or unlabeled buttons. So that's a problem. Again, we're feeding all this back to Apple, and hopefully we'll get that fixed. But some real issues there. But, what is cool are a lot of the potential that you can have with shortcuts. In particular now with onboard transcription, you can do it all on device now. You don't have to send audio files off to the cloud to get transcribed. It can be done on device, and you can build that into shortcuts. So, once they fix that app, I'm going to have a lot of fun.
Shortcuts are pretty powerful. I know you dove in head first with them to facilitate some of the things that you do. You talk about the address bar. Let's do a quick demo here. I've got my iPhone up on the screen here, and when you go into your settings and you type in Safari, this is going to be your quick fix, Stephen. You click into Safari and you scroll down midway in the settings. You can see there's a tabs area, and there's 3 options. There's compact, bottom, and top. By default, for some reason in iOS 26, it's set to bottom, and that literally shows the search bar and the address bar on the bottom. All you have to do is switch it to top, and when you go back into Safari, you're going to see that right at the top of the screen. So that's a quick fix for that one. Here's my how-to that I just offered you right here, Stephen. So I'm trying to give back to the community, and this is what I'm doing.
Very kind of you. It's very kind. I appreciate that.
In my hands, of course, this week, I've got my hands on the AirPods Pro 3rd generation and the new Apple Watch Series 11. We're going to have hands-on time with phones. They arrive tomorrow. I mean, I pre-ordered, I'm sure like you did, a couple different things to get your hands on them. I don't know what I'm going to keep, what I'm just going to play with. Quite good first impressions with the AirPods Pro 3. Definitely a better fit in my ears. I'm one of those people like Marques Brownlee that loves wearing AirPods Pro because the sound is quite exceptional. The active noise cancellation is great, and the transparency is unsurpassed. I have not had transparency on an in-ear buds like this ever, and I'm not talking only about this generation, but even the AirPods, AirPods regular 4 from last year, phenomenal. But now they come with 5 different ear tip sizes, so I went with the extra small, and definitely more comfortable in my ear, although I still have the one on my left ear slipping out. I don't think that's a fit thing as much as it's just I got really waxy ears.
Oh,
and
nice.
I think it's just, so I don't know.
Big head and waxy ears.
I know we're setting up a real good
Beautiful
partner profile here for me. But definitely an improvement in battery life, definitely an improvement overall. I tried the whole enhanced Find My. It is more precise, and it's a louder speaker on the actual case itself and the buds, so you can find that. Heart rate monitoring now built in, so if you don't have an Apple Watch and you do work out and you want to keep track of that, you can do that with the actual AirPods Pro themselves, or pick whichever one you think is better. I don't know if I'm qualified to maybe make that distinction. Are you?
Who knows? I mean, I haven't had hands-on with it yet. I'm really interested in the AirPods Pro 3, and I will say I think it's probably the only device or new device I'll buy from Apple this time around. I mean, I'm saying that now, of course. I haven't been in store yet, so once I get in and the new iPhones are out there, I haven't pre-ordered anything. I am waiting till I get hands-on in store. No, because I want to try out the iPhone Air. I'm not convinced about the iPhone Air. I need to get it in hand. I need to understand what this thing feels like to know if it's going to be worth it for me. I've talked on the show and other shows many times about my physical condition that I've got with my hand. I have to think about that. Weight is a big deal to me with phones, so the iPhone Air seems like the obvious choice. Yeah. But there are other trade-offs. It's a much larger device as well. It's bigger than the iPhone 17, which I still think is the best value device out there. It's the best proposition for most people, I think. The iPhone 17 is a great device for people to buy. And in fairness, so is the iPhone 16 and the 16e. If you can buy yourself a MagSafe case, which of course you can, the 16e is a great value device. I don't like the camera control button. And, with the 16e, you don't have it. But you do get the action button on it. So, the only thing that puts me off, and there's a lot of things I'm not keen on with the iPhone Air. One in particular is the battery life. There's a lot of concern around that. I'd like to see some reviews of people using that in the field first to know what the battery life is going to be like. And it only has a mono speaker. Someone like me who relies on the audio a lot and relies on good, clear, crystal clear audio, a mono speaker, single speaker in the front.
How often are you using the speaker on your phone, though?
Well, I use VoiceOver, right? So every single day, of every moment.
But you're using AirPods. You're using headphones.
No. I'm always listening to my phone. Well, in my house, I am. When I'm out and about, it's through the Ray-Bans or it's through the AirPods if I'm traveling. But for me, my speaker is constantly on. It is constantly being used, and the audio is really vital. I mean, look, I'm the guy who, when I was deciding which MacBook to buy, was going around, turning VoiceOver on, listening, in that environment, how clearly was I hearing it? It might not surprise you to learn the 16-inch MacBook Pro sounded the best. At least that's what I told my wife.
So Apple Watch Series 11 is available now. It actually is replaced the Series 10. You can't actually buy the Series 10 anymore. You have the Apple website up here, and you see it's completely gone. What strikes me interesting is that when I scroll through the comparison side by side here, the only difference I really see is that on the Series 11, you've got the wrist flick gesture, and you don't have that on the Series 10. That and battery life. Battery life is up to 24 hours on the Series 11 with 38 hours in low power mode. You didn't have that before on the Series 10. So if you've got a Series 10 to upgrade for those reasons, I don't know. I've never had a battery life issue with my Apple Watch, to be perfectly honest. So those aren't really compelling reasons for me.
Which watch have you got though?
I've got the Series 10. You mean previously?
Yeah,
I've got the 46 millimeter Series 10.
Okay, and it's interesting. I've had a lot of issues with my battery on the Series 10, and I think for me, I was thinking that's one of the reasons I would upgrade. I don't want the Ultra. But I think the Series 11, I was actually looking at the Series SE because I don't care about the screen or the brightness and all that. So I thought, well, even the SE would be good, right? It's a nice little device, but I do like the fact, and it's a little bit like the iPhone 17 to me. You've got everything you need in there. Everything else feels either too much or you're losing something. With the 16E, as I mentioned, you lose MagSafe and things like that. With the watch, the SE, you're losing a couple of sensors. Series 11, you're getting everything, And that I like that, and a nice package and good battery.
So obviously you can't buy the Series 10 now. So if you've got a Series 10 and you're thinking about upgrading to an 11, I think doesn't make sense. If you want to go for the Ultra because you want the ruggedness and those kind of features, then obviously that's a natural fit for you. I totally forgot to even do the comparison with the SE3. And if you look at the SE3 now, again, you got it in GPS and GPS and cellular, starting at $399 Canadian. That's pretty insane for the GPS and cellular. It's not as big, so you can get the 40 millimeter versus the 46. Will you notice a difference? I think if you've got vision, then yeah, you'll notice a difference. And really, it's just minor tweaks. Like it's 2,000 nits of brightness on the Series 11 versus the 1,000 on the SE. Again, these are such negligible differences that I agree with you in terms of a price point. $679 for GPS and cellular on the Series 11 versus $399. That's $300 cheaper, and you're getting pretty much everything you could possibly. You even get the wrist flick gesture, Stephen. You've got the same S10 chip. You've got 18 hours of battery life. So it's basically the Series 10, honestly, with
it's
the
the
smaller
hypertension
screen.
Notifications you don't get, right?
Yeah, and again, if you're buying a watch to hopefully detect issues in your health, okay, then I guess that you'd want the higher end, but for $300 price difference?
Yeah, it's consideration, right? But again, if you have got an older watch, you could trade it in. So, there's trade off you could literally do there to balance that out. And that's what I'll be doing.
I agree with you on the iPhone Air. I'm curious to get my hands on it and really kind of experience it. Would I use that as my daily driver? I don't think so, because I rely on some of the pro features and I lean into them because they're there. Would I use them if I didn't have them? Would I care about them? I'm not so sure, but I definitely, the images and the videos that we're seeing, it is a very sexy form factor. And I think it's going to be an inevitable future for what the iPhone is. I think we'll eventually see pro devices in that form factor in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, sure.
Anyway,
yeah. Of course.
When that's going to be, I don't actually know. But overall, I think it's been a fun week. I mean, the next one on our list is Amazon, right? Amazon's developer
Hopefully.
event is coming up. We got drones this week too, by the way. The new DJI Mini, if you're into drones.
You love your drones.
I do love my drones.
If I want to lose a lot of money, I'll buy a drone because it'll fly away, but I'll never find it again.
I'm curious what you guys at home are interested in and what you want us to dive into more, because we're just scraping the surface with a lot of this technology, just getting our hands on. But if there's something specific that you want us to talk about or dive into, let us know. Whether it's from Stephen's perspective or my perspective, we will do that for you. We'll take a bullet for you, and we will actually dive into that. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back with you again next week. Right, Stephen?
Absolutely. And I'm not buying a Pro phone, by the way. Not having it.
No, not having it.
I'm not
I'll ask you
Pro
that
this
question
year.
again next week, okay?
No, I'm telling you, I will not buy a Pro phone this year. No interest whatsoever. Air, 17, I would buy tomorrow.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Access Tech Live. Follow us online on all social media at Access Tech Live. Email us feedback@accesstechlive.com.